Welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to load some of the comments into those posts. So when we go into our host, localhost, we can see that we've got the various posts and we can go through them by clicking through them. And what we want to do in this lesson is we want to add in the comments. So add in an element or some spacing just down below where it says company and list out all of the comments that are available for this particular post. And we're using the post ID to reference where the comments should land. So each one of these posts has its unique ID, and correspondingly within the comments array, we've got a post ID number here. So this is going to relate to the post ID, and this is how we're going to know which comment goes and it gets attached to which post ID. So we need to loop through all of the available comments and see which ones are related to the post ID. So let's open up our code, and we want to actually load the comments. So let's create a brand new function. We'll call it load comments. Just place that when we're loading the page, and this is where we're actually loading that page content. So once we've finished loading the page content, then we can go ahead and we can load the comments. And then we can go ahead and create that function that will load the comments. And save that. Now let's do a quick refresh, just make sure everything is working properly. So we're not loading any of the comments quite yet. And let's start out by updating some of the HTML. So we're going to add to that and simply create a paragraph here that's going to say comments. And just make sure that that's working. And we can see that it's been added in there. So we know we need to make an AJAX call to the comments, and we can also select an ID from the comments. So we can do something like this in order to return back all the comments with post ID 1. And you can see that this simply looks at this field, the post ID 1 field, that matches the value of 1 and returns them all. So we also see that it takes a data type of number as well as string, so it's able to return back all of them. So that doesn't actually matter if it's with the quotes or without the quotes. So we know we've got a path there that we can loop through. And next, just as we did earlier, we need to do the AJAX request. So I'm going to copy this out and just add in a colon there and paste that in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just update this value, because the path is going to be different, but the AJAX call is relatively the same. So we're going to do the HTTP request on ready state. When it's ready, then we've got our data. So we've got our response data. We can parse through it, and then we can loop through that object. So just as we did earlier, so this is going to be the same thing. And we can also get rid of the load comments. So for now, let's console log out the my object just to make sure that we're grabbing that information correctly. So let's refresh, and that's the comments for the first post, the post ID number 2, post ID number 1, and so on. So it's loading all of the comments appropriately that are available for post ID 2. Now it's loading post ID 1, so you see that there's 6 of them for post ID 1, and there's 5 for post ID 2, and 3 for post ID 3, and so on and so on. So as we click through them, we see that we're able to load out all of the contents. So the next part is relatively straightforward, where we're just simply posting that ID value and the comment, the body of that particular post. So let's do that. And just as we did earlier, we can keep that console message in there, and we're going to loop through those returned values. So X, and we'll just do a simple for loop. So we've got the my object that we've just created, and we're going to loop through the length. As we see that they all have the length. The length is already available within the array. And increment X. So we have a way out of our loop. And now it's just a matter of updating the inner HTML of output and adding to it whatever output format we want. So maybe we want to bold it, and we want to grab that my object value of whatever that object with the index of X. And first we'll get the ID, And let's also return back the my object body. So that's going to be the contents that's contained within that object. And we'll close this off with a line break. And there we go. So let's refresh and see what this looks like. So there's our comments. There's our comments. So with the ID of the comment, and we have all of the comments that are getting listed. So we've got a nice and neat way to output comments that are available from our database, from our comment database, and that are tied to the various IDs. So go ahead and try this out for yourself. Add in the ability to load and list those comments.